911, what's your emergency?
Please, I need help. My husband's going crazy. He wants to kill me. Please send someone fast.
Assaulted right now, ma'am. Ma'am, is he armed? Do you have any children in the house?
Please send someone fast.
Peter is up late tinkering at his desk when his handler, disguised under the caller ID Mother, checks in with intel on a fentanyl shipment, pressing him to confirm the meet. Almost on cue, his drug partner rings and Peter relays the update. He'll need to pick him up in 2 hours for the sit-down with the suppliers. Just then, his daughter wanders in. Peter tells her it's time to go camping, a trip he's promised her. Overjoyed, she rushes off to wake her mom. Peter, calm but firm, gives his panicked wife the window that they've got 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Erica calls her boss to report that Peter is carrying out their plan, bringing them closer to the general. She needs his approval before moving forward. Hearing how many men she has on the ground and how tightly she's kept Peter on a leash, he gives the green light.
Gentlemen, thank you all for coming. This is Richard Klimek. His gang, known as Wojtek, is one of the major importers and distributors of fentanyl, the new dope sensation among junkies, also known as pink or synthetic heroin.
She briefs the squad on the target and on what their informant is doing to get them the evidence they need to move in. During the raid, they are to go easy on Peter. Meanwhile, Peter settles his family in the safe haven, his daughter already fast asleep inside the tent. He hands his wife a key and tells her she can't let anyone in, but she protests, insisting it won't come to that. Peter tells her he'll be on the road soon and all of this will be over. Later, Peter and Erica meet up in a bathroom stall. She hands him a phone that's tapped, only private numbers that trace back to her under the guise of family. She also gives him a wire, but Peter replies that he already has one. When they test it, it works perfectly. His chosen safe word will be that he needs a cigarette. Peter meets the supplier at the hangar, where the supplier hands him several bags and leaves him to handle the contents in the back seat while he chats with the driver about women. Meanwhile, Erica and another officer begin trailing Peter and Stasek once Rysard steps out of the van. The driver pulls into a liquor shop, interrupting his long phone call to ask Peter if he knows a man named Whitey Fisk.
Whitey Fisk, you know him?
Stasek plans to deliver to Whitey, a potential buyer, which throws the operation off course. Erica has to call her higher-ups, explain the situation, and gets the order to move on the buyer. They meet Whitey, but he doesn't have the cash for 6 keys, not even enough to secure 3, saying he needs a couple of hours. Peter, who's been quiet until now, steps in. He grills Whitey on his prison time and who he served with, pushing hard. The informant senses something's wrong and keeps pressing, agitating the man. Then Stasek gets a call and steps away. Peter directly asks Whitey if he's a cop. The man denies it, but Peter knows better. Instead of blowing his cover, he gives Whitey a chance to walk away. Instead, Whitey reveals himself, and just as Peter mutters that he's wired, Stasek shoots him dead. Erica hears the whole thing and decides they need to retreat now that a fellow officer has been killed. So when Peter signals with the safe phrase and steps out, he sees Erica's car driving off, abandoning him. Stasek, unaware, calls Peter back inside to help clean up the mess. Inside Klimek's lair, Peter is frisked before being allowed through. Stasek is mid-beating when the focus shifts to him. The general demands an explanation. When did Peter know the buyer was a cop? And why give him a chance to walk away? Peter insists he was trying to avoid trouble for the organization. But trouble has already landed. An NYPD officer is dead, and the force will stop at nothing for justice. Worse, the heat won't touch Stasek, who doesn't exist on paper. All eyes will be on Peter, and all of this will be bad for the drug trade. Klimek lays out his solution. Peter must return to prison and act as his drug runner from inside, citing a massive market pool behind bars. He states it won't be more than 5 years, and Peter must break his parole to facilitate the arrest. Peter resists, but Klimek cuts him down with a threat that they know about his wife and child, what they were up to, and now their lives hang on his compliance. When Peter exits the meeting, he spots Sophia and Anna in the car, a fleeting glance that tightens his chest before he slides into the passenger seat. They drive him home, waiting outside while he storms in. Inside, Peter calls Erica, furious at being abandoned. She fires back, blaming him for letting the plan derail. She insists they can still salvage things in a meeting later that night, brushing past his protests that pressing harder would have exposed him. Their daughter plays in the backyard with a friend, and Peter rages that Sophia ignored his instructions to leave at the designated time. The argument boils over, Sophia shouting that she'd hoped he'd make it back in time, that hovering was her only way to keep them together. The anger burns out in an embrace, and then she quietly helps him scrub the blood away. That night, Stasek and 2 enforcers dispose of the body. Stasek does the cutting while the others look on, disturbingly entertained. Detective Edward Grenz pulls up to the crime scene and approaches the body just as it's being identified, correcting the officer on the victim's real name. The man was a member of his organized crime unit working a low-level buy off a street tip. Now Grenz learns the body was mutilated to send a message. Edward gets to work, ordering CCTV pulled and copying the footage onto a flash drive. By nightfall, he admits to his partner that Daniel's death might connect to the General, a Polish crime boss. Reviewing the tapes, he spots a man stepping out right around the time Daniel would have been inside the bar. The guilt is eating him as he's the one who sent Daniel on a mission he wasn't ready for.
Hold on a second, watch my six. That girl over there was Daniel's source.
He's just caught sight of the Polish informant across the street and moves in, but the moment she sees him, she bolts. He gives chase, corners her in an alley, and before long, they're back in his car, tempers flaring in a heated shouting match. Nadia has to call him out and insist she handles the questioning if they're going to get anything or anywhere with the girl. Reluctantly, Edward agrees to let her do her thing. The meeting doesn't go Peter's way. Erica's boss sits in, laying it out plain. The plan to bury the case on Klimek failed. Peter is baffled as hasn't he already given them enough evidence? He insists he's done his part and wants out, but the new deal is harsher. He'll have to return to prison, just like the drug lord demanded, and from the inside gather more evidence that will finally sink Klimek. It's clear this is Erica's strategy because her boss doesn't care what happens to Peter anymore. For the Bureau, it's the only way to keep the whole mess from unraveling. With the NYPD already involved and a cop dead, exposure could blow the case wide open. If Peter refuses, he'll be sent back to prison anyway, this time serving his full term plus extra years as an accessory to the murder of a New York officer. Erica leans in, pressing him to take the deal. And she doesn't sugarcoat it. If he strays again, they'll abandon him without hesitation. Back at his hideout, Peter pulls out the recorder from his latest meeting. Erica's voice plays loud and clear before he tucks it away with the growing pile of tapes he's been stacking. Meanwhile, Nadia's calls churn up a load of intel. Stasek's name surfaces, but he's little more than a ghost. No paper trail and a dead end. Peter, though, is wide open. His parents immigrated from Poland. He served in the military, but PTSD sent him into a spiral that ended with the manslaughter of a man in a bar. He did 4 years in prison, and then his file was wiped clean. Too clean that it reeks of federal meddling. Edward isn't satisfied, so he pushes Nadia to dig deeper, convinced Peter is at the center of this and could be Daniel's killer. The link that ties it all together is Bale Hill, the place where both Daniel's father and Peter once served. By morning, Stasek is hammering at Peter's door. The meeting shifts to the garage, where Stasek reveals they've uncovered the alias Daniel was using. It rattles Peter because he knows the real man behind that name, which is how he pegged the buyer as an undercover cop. Stasek slides him a parcel of fentanyl, telling him it's time to break parole. By Monday, Peter will need to smuggle in more once he's back inside. Harder now, with Edward sniffing around. Before leaving with the other thugs, Stasek presses him about his whereabouts last night, but Peter lets him assume he was with a mistress. When the garage door closes, Sophia steps in, her face making it clear she heard everything. They're in the living room, with her trying to understand the news she's just heard about prison time. But he doesn't have a reply, and it's her cue to storm out. He and his daughter share lunch on a fence overlooking the city. Pointing to a building in the distance, he tells her he'll be on a business trip there for the last time. She doesn't want him to go, but it's something he has to do. A call interrupts, signaling it's go time. Back in the garage, Peter carefully hides the drugs inside flower petals, shaping them into a bouquet. Later, in his meeting with Erica, she briefs him on what to expect. The warden, James, has been told to place Peter in solitary once he receives the list Peter is expected to compile. After that, he'll get his freedom. She also promises his family will be moved to a safe house before the drug lord can retaliate. Peter asks for 3 favors. The last is the riskiest, getting the bouquet inside prison in 6 days, on Founders Day, when the government seal will allow the contraband to slip through. Erica refuses, warning that it could ruin the case during trial because it would be an edge for the prosecutor. Peter thinks up a second option. Instead of smuggling the bouquet, the warden could assign him to roof and yard maintenance. Erica is fine with that, agreeing to stage a drug sweep so the competition inside can breathe a little, giving Peter room to work. When Peter returns home with his sleeping daughter, he finds Klimek's men. They usher themselves out, leaving the drug lord and his wife, Beata. The older man imposes dinner and help with tucking in Anna. Upstairs, he reveals he doesn't have kids because they're a liability, the constant fear of what might happen to them. Dinner holds, with Beata rendering a song that has Peter and Sophia in a solemn mood. Outside, Edward watches from close range. He sees the general and Beata bidding the younger couple good night. For Edward, that's all the proof he needs. Anna leaves on her trip, giving her parents the space they need to move forward. Peter and Sophia run through the last-minute details, Peter asking if the key is still in place. When she assures him it is, he grabs a bat and starts smashing the dishes. Sophia dials 911 and fakes distress, the couple locking into a tight embrace before the police arrive. She cuts her forehead with a shard of glass, and Peter doesn't wait. He steps outside to surrender, turning it into a spectacle for Edward, who's been watching all night from his stakeout. The moment Peter is back in prison, Slewett steps in and personally assigns him to a cell. He'll be sharing the space with Smiley's boy. Then a new face materializes, calls Peter the prodigal son, and slips Slewett something with a quiet request for 2 extra beds. He embraces Peter, whispering that the general sent him and that he'll have his back. Slewett says, "Each and every business that takes place under the roof of this facility runs through me. Comply or I crucify you." He's in Peter's face, putting up a front to show everyone watching who's in charge. He even commands Climax Man to return to his block. Once he leaves, though, the new inmate gets a warm welcome from some of the others. It's time for the drug sweep. Cadaver dogs are brought in, and the inmates are lined against the wall, hands behind their heads. The warden assigns Peter to maintenance duty before the rest are ushered out. Later, Peter settles in with his clique and hears the word that the facility's been swept bone dry. Calmly, he tells them their supply will be here soon. Edward goes knocking for answers, but Erica won't budge. Montgomery sees the exchange and plays dumb too, even with the evidence stacked against them. The one thing Edward and Montgomery can agree on is that the Bureau and the NYPD don't see eye to eye. And in Edward's book, if they want a war, then a war is what they'll get. With that, he leaves. Sophia is in the garage, set to carve open a bird and pack it with product. Same night, a helicopter drops it onto Bale Hill's rooftop. The next morning, when the roof crew is sent up to clean, Peter spots the bird. He bags it smoothly and edges toward the chimney, careful not to draw eyes. Meanwhile, a relentless detective finds Sophia at her store. He admits he's not convinced her husband is the killer he's after, especially with the feds crawling around. He says he wants to help, which instantly puts Sophia on guard. She replays the night that started it all, Peter brawling with 3 men in a bar over her. That one fight set off a chain of dominoes, and she isn't looking for more. Edward still leaves his card, insisting he's one of the good guys. Back inside Bale Hill, the yard is alive as the parcel makes its rounds. That's when a wiry inmate named Vermin drifts into Peter's circle, flashing a neck piece that buys him access. Peter listens as Edward relays a message. The detective is inside, hovering close. He wants a meeting, non-negotiable, about the late cop. If Peter's ready to talk, he just has to put the word out through Vermin. Slewett lures Peter straight into an ambush, a stand-down with Smiley, Bale Hill's distributor, furious about the sudden competition. Before Peter can say much, Slewett cracks him across the back, and the thugs drag him to the wall, rope in hand. Peter blurts his truth, swearing he's not here to step on business but to bring down the general, but they don't care. The noose goes up, and he's hauled off his feet, choking, gagging, still gasping out his mission between strangled breaths. Slewett walks out coolly, tossing over his shoulder that they should make it look like a self-inflicted end. Dangling, half gone, Peter clings to his line. He's here to dismantle the general. Hearing it plain that he's a snitch, has Smiley waving his men off, lets Peter crumple to the ground. Peter asks for help with the list, arguing it'll cut the competition out and leave Smiley stronger. Smiley decides Pete has his answer if he's still alive in 3 hours. Back at the Bureau, Montgomery summons Erica into his office. He's rattled. Edward has slipped into Bale Hill, and worse, he's already made calls to Washington. The higher-ups are pressing with questions Montgomery can't answer. Erica suggests stalling, buying a few days until things cool down, as Peter will soon give them what they need. But Montgomery has a better idea. So Montgomery turns on her. He throws the whole mess back at her, saying the operation unraveled under her watch. But she fights back that it all happened under his authority and she will not burn an innocent man. He lays out the narrative he could spin to Washington, that Erica was the reckless one, hungry for results, pushing her operation too far just to impress him. If it comes down to survival, she'll be the scapegoat, full package with jail time.
Burn him. It's an order.
Then he walks away, leaving her tongue-tied. Peter is on guard while taking a piss, but it's only Smiley's man, slipping him the list he needs. The next morning, Peter hands the list to the warden and asks for solitary, only to hear that orders have changed and James's hands are tied. Peter pleads, saying they'll kill him, but James just waves him off, ordering an officer to escort him back to his block. Desperate, Peter calls Erica, but she won't give him anything. With barely 2 minutes left on the clock, he dials home. He tells Sophia she has to use the key because they screwed him over and he's not making it out alive. That's when she mentions the detective who came to see her. Peter seizes on it that she should hand over the tapes to him. He'll know what to do. His only priority now is Anna and Sophia's safety, since federal protection is gone. The NYPD cop has to be the one to keep them alive. On the other hand, Erica corners the general's attorney and leaks just enough to push him into action. Soon, Climax Boy in jail is shown Peter's picture, an unspoken contract for a hit. Meanwhile, Erica shows up at Sophia's place right as she's pulling out the tapes. She confiscates them, coolly revealing that Peter's prison call was recorded, which is how she tracked her down. Then, in a rare flicker of humanity, she slides over the hidden stash of cash. The Poles will come for them, she warns. Sophia and Anna need to run. Later, in her car, Erica listens to the tapes. Each one is stacked with incriminating promises, painting her and the Bureau in the worst possible light. Over and over, her voice repeats assurances that she won't leave Peter high and dry, but the last tape makes her freeze, guilt locking her in place. Inside Bale Hill, the bunk room is stripped nearly bare. Smiley's man gives Peter a signal that he's about to be burned. Peter scrambles to stash evidence, but the drive is missing. Before he can react, Klimak's enforcer swings in with a weapon, the other inmates minding their business. Peter catches the blow with his padded fist, blocking hard. The weapon skitters across the floor, leaving them in a brutal fistfight, his attacker on top, Peter straining, desperate to push back. Before the man can reach for the skidded blade, Peter forces his face away and pushes him off, switching to the top so he's the one delivering blows now. Pushing the body away, he retrieves the weapon, and then he drags the corpse to the middle of the aisle, which draws surveillance attention and sets off the alarm. Peter hides and ambushes the first guard that tries to apprehend him, subduing Sluitt with the blade and using him as a hostage. He's surrounded, but the other guards tread carefully with the weapon in Sluitt's ear. Peter orders them to get the warden and tell him he wants to speak to the press. He also wants to talk to his wife and kid. Without waiting for a response, he takes Sluitt's keys and drags him upstairs to the fan room, where he relieves him of the choke, but knocks him out before the curses can start. Then he begins to plan. Meanwhile, Stasek and the other two arrive on orders. They spot Anna first, but her mom pulls her into the house and calls the detective. She barely gets a word out before Stasek breaks down the door with his pistol in hand. At the same time, Montgomery marches towards the prison to take charge of the hostage crisis, briefing Erica as they walk. They both know Peter's demand is simple. He wants to talk to the press. Peter smashes the glass with a padded fist and positions 2 propeller tanks, covering their tops with a cloth. Back at home, the goons are dousing the house with gasoline. Edward spots the setup through the window, and before one of them can draw his weapon, the detective shoots him down. The gunfire alerts Stasek, pulling his attention. When Edward reaches the bedroom, he finds Sophia gagged and gestures to under the bed. Before he can react, Stasek fires first, the shot tearing into Edward's ankle. Stasek has Anna in his grip as a hostage, forcing Edward to hold his fire. By the time Stasek crawls out from under the bed, Edward is gone. Deciding to hunt him down, he drags Anna along as leverage. They spot a blood trail and follow it down the stairs, unaware that Sophia is struggling to free herself from the binds. Stasek finds Edward lying on his back, helpless and unarmed. He raises his pistol, ready to finish him off when Sophia fires from behind. Stasek manages to shoot her too, but in the chaos, Edward forces the barrel back under Stasek's chin and pulls the trigger. Chaos engulfs the prison. Vans, patrol cars, a chopper overhead, officials spilling out and locking into formation. The warden steps up with a phone, giving Peter the chance to call his family. Down below, Montgomery learns that it's just a stalling tactic until HN can get into position. On no account is Peter allowed to speak with the press. As Sophia is rushed to the hospital, Peter's call comes through. The moment the family time is cut short, he drags Sluitt's unconscious body into view, giving the watchtower a target. He lays the guard down, swaps clothes with him, then stirs him awake, only to force himself under Sluitt's chokehold, bracing against an iron bar so the sniper has a clean shot. The bullet rips through, dropping Sluitt and puncturing a tank. The blast rocks the facility, but Peter slips out in the chaos. Minutes later, word spreads of a survivor. Erica rushes to the scene, only to learn the survivor is Sluitt, not Peter, just like Montgomery wanted. When the bodies are rolled out, Erica spots Peter hidden in the guard's uniform. She flashes her badge and slips into the van. He's barely conscious, but his eyes catch the moment she pulls her pistol and places it within reach, a silent cue for him to act when the time comes. In the next scene, the van is cornered in a clearing. Erica fakes distress, scribbles a quick note on her pad, and under the guise of keeping her at gunpoint, she slips his belongings into his hands. He tells her to cuff herself to the others before he limps away. Later on, Erica baits Montgomery to say on record that they messed up, and he'll take care of Peter if she doesn't. It's all OPR needs to arrest him. Detective Edwards says, "Don't it just warm your heart to see the FBI and NYPD finally corporate?" But Montgomery can only gawk in response as Erica takes off the wire, and it's clear that he's been set up. Peter now has his freedom, out of jail, but the bad men are still on his tail as long as the investigation continues. He can only see his family from a distance. Edward warns him to keep laying low, but Erica promises that he'll be reunited with them soon. Torn, he walks away. It's a wrap for this one. Keep watching for more. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.